Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Transfer Talks here on the channel. And this is, of course, our second one. And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Critical himself, Ewan, to talk about the hottest rumors, confirmed transfers around the pro cycling world. And yeah, Ewan, where should we start other than the big story that Geraint Thomas might be leaving Ineos Grenadiers?
Well, the news has broken that Geraint Thomas will not be re-signing his contract with Ineos Grenadiers at the end of this year. Cyclingnews.com, the English-speaking news website, have posted an article saying that Ineos are looking to completely restructure the team, and Geraint Thomas is not going to be a part of that restructure. Currently, he's still working on a contract signed after his Tour de France victory and so forth, and the price is very high in comparison to his lackluster results over the past couple of years, and of course, his growing age. He is not getting any younger as he delves right into his mid to late 30s. Nevertheless, the teams that are apparently supposed to be negotiating contracts with Geraint Thomas include Quebec Assos, Cofidis, and Trek Segafredo. Trek have been linked to Geraint Thomas in the past, back in 2018, and they seem to be in the battle here, despite Cofidis and Trek Segafredo denying contract negotiations with the Brits. However, Quebec Assos, in this case, could be a good home for him.
So obviously the elephant in the room is, well, if you've watched our video about the salaries of 2020, you'll have seen that Geraint Thomas is one of the big earners in terms of salary, 3.5 million euros. And this is kind of the problem with Ineos Grenadiers. They are so much ahead of everyone else on budget. Okay, AG2R, Citroën are getting close, and Jumbo-Visma as well. But there is kind of a two-tier system almost in the World Tour. And who could actually afford Geraint Thomas as well?
Well, Geraint Thomas's contract value has gone down a lot over the past 2 years. Following that Tour de France victory, he's a big name in the UK and France because he's won the Tour de France in these two countries. But I wouldn't say if you went to Colombia and said Geraint Thomas, would they know who he is? He's not necessarily the most exciting rider or the most prolific in terms of victory. So I think Geraint Thomas will probably have to take a big pay cut, but through media presence in the UK and so forth, he could sustain a living. I mean, he's already on a 3.5 million euro contract at the moment with Ineos Grenadiers. So he'll be fine. I just don't think he's going to be that big headline act at the new team he starts with. It might be a bit like Froome and replicating that. And speaking of which, he hasn't been linked to Israel Startup Nation, but this would not surprise me. They have big wallets and they don't seem to have pro cycling stats open on their computers at the team. So I'm sure Geraint Thomas could be on their radar.
Yeah, you said he's 35. And one thing that I thought was a bit sad in the cycling news article was that he didn't mention his prestigious results already this season: the Vuelta a Catalunya podium, and of course winning the Tour de Romandie. He isn't spent. It's not like it's a injured Froome like in Israel Startup Nation signed, who hadn't had any results and was coming back from injury. And yeah, it was mainly just a name they were signing. He still has, despite the vast amount of crashes he's had this year, he still has a lot of performance in him. And we know a lot of riders can compete into their late 30s. Just look at Alejandro Valverde, Chris Horner. Yeah, that kind of league. And yeah, Ewan, do you not think he could do something at least next year and not just be another Froome, if you will?
I don't think he'll be another Froome. I think he'll just not be in top 10 at a Grand Tour next year. He's already got the problems of bike handling issues and the fact that he's always relied on a strong team. His team guaranteed that 2018 Tour de France victory. He was up against Tom Dumoulin, who was almost riding solo in that Grand Tour. And Geraint Thomas, once he leaves that Ineos setup, I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to compete. He might end up being like Richie Porte, where he doesn't quite hit the mark, doesn't quite have the team support in a Grand Tour, but sweeps up the one week races. But winning the Tour of Romandie and the Vuelta a Catalunya, for example, is not going to give you a big contract. When they call up the Quebec charity or the sponsors like Nextash and Burberry who are paying for Quebecers' wages and say, oh, we just won this race. Okay, we've never heard of it. The marketing department have no idea what it is, and that is not going to hit the mark and doesn't warrant the high contract. That's just how business works. That's why there's so much emphasis on Grand Tours, Tour de France, and Paris-Roubaix. But nevertheless, I'm intrigued to see what the next chapter is going to be for Geraint Thomas, but he's not the only person leaving, is he?
Yeah, it seems like, as you said, they're having a restructure completely. And one of the riders that we've liked for a few years now, Ivan Sosa, who's touted as the next big thing for Colombian cycling, almost the heir to Nairo Quintana or Egan Bernal. Okay, Egan Bernal is still very young, but Ivan Sosa is linked to Movistar, and he won the Tour de la Provence early on, but hasn't really lived up to anything else. And Ewan, do you think Ivan Sosa is just going to disappear in Movistar and be spat out. But at least you'll get a good few episodes on their Netflix series.
Well, of course, their Netflix series has not been confirmed for this season, and neither has Ivan Sosa's future. We don't know whether he's staying at Ineos or not, but the rumor is, according to Cycling News, that he's leaving. You mentioned Movistar, but there's also Bora. Bora seemed to be linked to half of the peloton this year, following a cash injection. But for Ivan Sosa, he's a phenomenal talent. I think he is really, really, really talented. Hasn't had the chance to lead the team at the big occasions. He won a stage at Burgos last year. He won the Tour de la Provence. He's been up there at many big races, out climbing a Gambardal at certain points in Remco Evenepoel in the past. So I think Ivan Sosa is actually the real deal. And once he leaves the team, I think it could let him flourish. Is this the team I would hope he goes to? No, because they'll funnel him into the Tour de France to be part of this 8-prong attack where they have Miguel Angel Lopez, Marc Soler and so forth, or battling it out to become Movistar leader. But Ivan Sosa needs to leave Ineos Grenadiers, and this is the opportunity for him. Bora, I don't think it's going to work out because they'll have Vlasov. They've got Emil Bushman, Wilco Kelderman, and so forth there. His riding style is not a Bora riding style. I'm intrigued to see what the future brings to Ivan Sosa, and I do think it will be bright, but destination is unknown.
So, of course, there's also other riders who's linked with leaving. Michal Golash, the Polish rider who's been a very loyal domestique, and Cameron Worth, the what should you say, omni-talented athlete. Of course, he came in as a substitute for Vasil Kirienka last year at the beginning of the season because of his heart problems. But they're just changing the whole structure here. And there's a lot of other riders as well. Owen Doull is uncertain as well. And what do you think they're doing? Do you think they're just cleaning up their whole squad or what?
Yep, I think that they're changing it. They realized their setup this year, it was successful, but they didn't maximize their resources. And you're paying Richie Porte, Gegenhardt, all these guys big money contracts to go and file out a train and come in third place or win a sort of World Tour stage race. It's not quite the returns you would have wanted for the highest paid team in the peloton, and you can see them getting outfoxed by the guys who are probably on less money as well. So they have to just rethink it. And I mean, Ivan Sosa, he's going to be worth a lot more if they keep him on for another couple of years, and so will Rowan Dennis and so forth, especially now he's Olympic champion. I know Dennis and Worth are friends. Dennis, of course, leaving for Jumbo-Visma, we believe. And Sebastian Hernau, he's been there for years. Michal Golash is retiring. He went along with Michal Kwiatkowski a number of years ago. And to add to all of this reshuffling, Gianni Moscon, who has been almost one of the brightest talents in the team, polyvalent rider, as they say in French, can do everything. He has uncertainties surrounding his contract. Where he'll go next year, I don't know. I'd like to see him at a team that would really maximize his abilities in the classics and as a good 1 week long stage racer. But we'll have to wait and see what Moscon brings. But this is all change at Ineos Grenadiers, really focusing on Bernal, focusing the future with Tom Pidcock and the future of this project. The future is not Richie Porte, it's not Geraint Thomas anymore.
So anyways, moving on, a team that you've already alluded to, Bora Hansgrohe, of course, are losing Peter Sagan, and that's going to take a lot of wage out of their wage budget. But they have been linked with last year's podium finisher, of course, Jakob Hindley, who almost won the Giro d'Italia, and of course, Sergio Higuita as well from EF Education. Do you think these two riders will add value to changing Bora Hansgrohe almost? We've seen that they've more gone for GC this year with Wilco Kelderman getting a top 5. Yes, I know Emmanuel Buchmann finished 4th in 2019 before we get the Buchmann fans attacking us. But yeah, Ewan, do you think this is two good signings for Bora Hansgrohe?
I think Higuita is an interesting move. I presume it's financial because Higuita he looks to have good morale at the team he's at already. There are Colombians there, Spanish-speaking staff. He feels very comfortable. He's been given the opportunity to shine at Paris-Nice, at the UAE Tour. Also, of course, winning that stage of the Vuelta a España back in 2019. That lives with him. So I do imagine this is a financial move for him in order to get more money. Bora Hansgrohe throwing bags of money everywhere, it seems, this year. And Hindley, well, Hindley was probably on a very low contract at Team DSM. It was signed before he came second at the Giro d'Italia in 2020. And with that in his palmares, that means his worth is going to go up a lot. And DSM, they're one of the lower budget teams. I'm not sure if they can really fork out for him and if they can provide him with the opportunities in the future. Bora Hansgrohe could suit him. It's an Anglophone setup, and Jai Hindley would benefit their new mountain program and rejoining Wilco Kelderman there after their tandem at the Giro in 2020.
But anyways, moving on to a team that hasn't quite had the same success as Bora Hansgrohe had in the Tour de France this year, and that is, of course, Lotto Soudal. And yeah, you and two riders, very significant riders, are leaving the team. And who are they?
Well, it's out with the old and out with the new. Stefano Oldani, the young sprinter from Italy, who's got top 10s at Giro sprints and who's been riding very, very well over the past couple of years. He signed with Lotto Soudal, but now he is confirmed to be leaving for Alpecin Fenix. Yes, the young Italian is leaving a Belgian team to go to another Belgian team. This one a little bit more successful in the sprints this year after the stage wins with Tim Merlier at the Giro and the Tour de France, alongside many big title sprint victories, including the World Championship of Sprinters, Cel de Prijs. And I think Oldani is going to really hit the mark here. He's going to be joining Sparali, another Italian, at that squad. He's used to this Flemish setup, the Belgian classics that they'll get invited to. And Oldani moving to Alpecin Fenix will be a very good move for him in order to nurture his sprinting ability and have the opportunity to shine when he wants to. Because now I think Oldani, he was always in service of other people. And at some points, he was able to get a top 5 just like Caleb Ewan could in some sprints at the Giro. Nevertheless, the other rider is John Degenkolb, formerly of Giant Alpecin, then at Trek Segafredo, and now he's going back to Team DSM, formerly Giant Alpecin. Yes, the team that I think he probably had the most success at with his plethora of Volta España stage wins, green jerseys there, Paris-Roubaix and Milano-San Remo victories at that squad as well. Degenkolb going back. It's interesting. DSM changing their pattern of signing young riders to now sign him, Bardet and Nicola Roche. Like, it's three old guns, but I think Degenkolb will bring some good experience to the younger sprinters coming through, like Case Ball, Casper Peterson, and so forth. So this will be an interesting signing, and hopefully they can get back in the classics.
So anyways, if you've watched our first Transfer Talk episode, you will of course have seen that Jakob Fuglsang is leaving Astana Premier Tech, and he was linked with both Cofidis and Israel Stardom Nation. And yeah, it seems that he's also been linked with Deceuninck Quickstep, so trying to ask Patrick Lefevere for Lefevre. So Ewan, what do you think about this transfer potential for Jakob Fuglsang? We discussed that he could potentially fit in with Israel Stardom Nation. Cofidis, he would basically be the out-and-out leader. Well, maybe sharing duties with Guillaume Martin. But yeah, what do you think of Deceuninck Quickstep with Jakob Fuglsang?
Well, I think this is laughable to some extent. To quote Patrick Lefevre, pulling on his arms to try to get a spot at the team for next year. So I don't think he's had many contract offers that really suit him or appeal to him. So now he's having to search his own destiny. I think the Olympic Games actually helped put him back on the map after a disappointing Tour de France in 2021 season so far, proving that he is still up there as a one-day rider, but his worth will be a lot less than before. I know he won Lombardia and so forth in the past couple of years, but he's getting old. His value is decreasing. Deceuninck aren't going to sign him. It's not a Cavendish 2.0. They're not focused on winning in the mountains. Lefevre has this really strong bond with Mauri von Savenant and with Remco Evenepoel, who are the future. They're Belgian as well. Maybe Brian Holm has something to answer for here, but Lefevre is not going to give the favor to Jakob Fuglsang. I am 100% certain of it.
So anyways, Ewan, you also have a few other interesting stories that are very speculative and yeah, surrounding Italian riders, that's for sure.
If you've been watching for a while, you will know that I do love a good Italian rider. They bring something different to the table. And one of my favorites, Bettiol, has been linked by Beppe Conti from Rai Sport to be going over to Deceuninck Quickstep, which I just don't see happening following his contract renewal at the end of the Giro d'Italia. And Bettiol seems pretty happy at that setup. Deceuninck is quite a competitive environment. I don't think Bettiol is that kind of rider. I've heard from his agent and so forth and other journalists saying that he's a rider that rides on feel, and he's actually quite difficult to manage because he just does what he thinks is right for himself. I think that won't work at Deceuninck, where you have Patrick Lefevre, who's a bit of an ego, definitely a personality who waltzes around. Sam Bennett, for example, he's riding on feel at the moment, and he's getting berated in the press by Patrick Lefevre. I don't think Bettiol moving to DQS would suit him and provide him with the opportunities. And the other one is Colbrelli, who has been seen having lunch with Beppe Martinelli, who is one of the most successful DSs in Giro d'Italia history. Of course, he is one of the director sportives at Astana Premier Tech. This could happen. He doesn't have a contract for next year. He's Italian champion. Astana, very popular in Italy, and they're about to sign Lo Squalo. Colbrelli and Lo Squalo used to ride together at Bahrain. I think they have very close ties with their agents. So this could spell a move for Colbrelli after what's been a decent season at Bahrain victorious, he might be moving over to Astana, seeing as they're losing Aramburu, we believe, to Movistar.
So anyways, before we finish, we also have just a confirmation of a few transfers. Alexandre Kristoff seems to be going to Intermarché Wanty Group Gobert. And also the happiest rider in the peloton, Esteban Chaves, has confirmed his move to EF Education Nippo. And it also looks like the Peter Sagan transfer is basically confirmed as well to Total Energies. So anyways, that's it for our second transfer talks here on the channel. And of course, if you'd rather listen to us, you can also do that on Spotify, iTunes, or Podbean. And yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to comment down below what you think of the transfers. And of course, as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all we're doing on the channel. And of course, thank you for watching and have a nice day.